Good morning, and I hope you all can see me. And I see Bruce, Scott, hey Candi, and KG, hey Kevin Green. How y'all doing? If you can see me and you can hear me, give me a thumbs up because I am using a brand new system, and I mean everything is new. The camera you're seeing me through is a Logitech high def camera, and I am speaking to you through a Yeti microphone, and it's all being processed through an Acer Predator computer. So hopefully we are getting a good, strong signal, and good. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Natani Finns and Kristen Kirby. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. And let me see if I can monitor from a different angle here. And is the stream smooth or is it choppy? It looks smooth. Looks good. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get underway. Thank you, everybody, for coming into Cichlids and Coffee. I appreciate you spending your Saturday mornings with me. And I hope wherever you are drinking out of one of these. And this is the Cichlids and Coffee cup. And nice, very nice. I'm using a software to stream today called Lightstream, and it is a software that is in the cloud, and so you don't have to put anything into your computer like OBS or things like that. And so it's an experimental software, and it's got a few kinks, and I don't really have all the features. I just started learning it on this last Monday, so I don't really have all the features nailed down yet. But as I get the hang of it, I hope to improve the quality of what's being delivered to all of you who spend some time with me on Saturdays. So as usual, I'd like to give a very warm welcome to all of you who are here, and especially those of you getting up at unusual hours in faraway places like Switzerland and Korea and places like that, the Philippines and everywhere else that people come in on. And I'd like to thank of course, my moderators, the best on YouTube, Denny, Dennis Ruedel, Kevin Green, and the amazing Candi Overhuls. Thank you. You three of you are awesome. And of course, a big thank you to the super chatters who help support the channel, and to those of you who have purchased some merchandise like a coffee cup. It's very appreciated. Helps me reinvest into better equipment so I can keep upgrading what we're doing. So remember the Livestream discount code, Livestream, all one word, Livestream. You can use that at checkout with t-shirts and cups and things like that. You get 10% off. That's still active. I decided just go ahead and leave it on and let you folks take advantage of it. And I thank those of you who have purchased cups. So this is a beta test of this system. Let's see how it works. And I hope it's smooth all the way through. So what have I been up to? I've as you know, I've released a couple of videos, and I had some very interesting reactions to them. The first video, of course, was this hotel, Hawk Hotel, and a little bit of tongue in cheek, a little bit of fun that I had there, and it was interesting. I had a lot of different reactions. I had what I like to refer to as some people tried to teach, and some people tried to preach, and it's all good. It's all good. I didn't block. I think I only blocked one comment, and but overall the reaction was pretty positive. And I am going to take to heart some of the comments that were made. I mean, some of the comments were a little bit impractical. Like you really should have those fish in a 120, 6-foot tank with 3 females and 1 male. And I agree, but that's not what I have going on right now, and it's not something I can do right now. It's like me showing you a a video of me driving a Chevy and then you comment on the video. You really should be in a Ferrari. And, it's not okay that you're not in a Ferrari. And I go, hey, I get it. I would love to be in a Ferrari. But so at any rate, some folks made some comments that I thought were very good. Like remove the gravel so that when the eggs are laid, they don't get scored or scarred. And so the female isn't carrying around eggs that are going to rot and never hatch. And so I'm going to clear out the bottom, and I am going to, someone commented, hey, that male doesn't look like he's ready to breed. And I had just transferred the male to the tank, and he, so he was still in the confusion of what's going on. I was in this 100-gallon tank with all my friends, and now I'm in here with I don't know who this gal is. So he was a little bit kind of like out of it, and somebody jumped on it. Hey, he doesn't look like he's ready to breathe. Hey, look, I didn't slip him some Viagra before I put him down there. He's just trying to get acclimated. But so maybe he'll warm up, and maybe he'll start to show more color and more interest. Interestingly enough, the female was very dormant and not doing really much of anything for not even really taking food for a couple of days, then started getting a little interested in food. The male immediately was eating very aggressive, just going after the food like usual, and being very active. The female was very, very docile and sort of hanging around to herself. Now it's like yesterday evening, like this switch flipped, and now she's very active. She's actually going after the male a little bit, not necessarily like hurting him, but definitely like moving him around the tank a little bit. And so she's definitely come alive and acclimated to that 30-gallon. We'll see where it happens. She is much bigger than him, and if she did start to demonstrate a lot of aggression, like what I thought would be aggression that would damage the male, I would certainly put the male back in the 100, and then put the female probably put the female up for sale, or just give her away, just rehome her to somebody who could give her a good home. And so I am going to provide for them a little private suite. Someone suggested I get one of these. So this is going to be the private Cichlid suite. And so they're going to get a room upgrade, and maybe I'll write on it, Cichlid, Hawk Hotel or something. But at any rate, so that was a good suggestion. I am going to clear out the substrate, maybe stack it all in one corner, and then put the terracotta, put this pot on top of it, so that there's no so that there is a much larger area for them to lay their eggs without the chance of the female picking up fragments of substrate that might damage the eggs. So I'm going to try that, and so some of the suggestions were really good. I'm not going to be putting them into 120. I'm not going to be doing a full-blown breeding project. And if it does fail, if I don't really see any real activity in the next few weeks, what I'm going to do is more than likely just go ahead and abandon the project and put the male back in the 100 and give away the female, because it's not. You get into breeding, it's a whole. I mean, for those of you out there who breed, breed fish. I mean, it's a huge project. I mean, you have to have, you should have different stages. I mean, let's say you get, you get these different waves of fry. You're going to have different tanks, because some get bigger, and the new ones have to go into one. And anyway, it's a bbig project that requires a lot more room, and actually, honestly, more time than I have right now. Did some of you watch the IFG video where a couple of his, I think those are South Americans, he said there's like 1,500 fry or something. It was like if you've ever seen a cloud of birds where there's like 1,000 birds and they're just going around like in a big, just one of those, like you see fish sometimes, they swim like that just in balls, and it was just amazing. It was like a tank full of a cloud of fry. Absolutely amazing. And I don't think I'd ever get anything like that. So at any rate, yes, I did Hawk Hotel, and then I did Not Level, Not Good. And that one had a pretty good response. I'd say it was about 98% positive. And there was a what inspired that video were two things. One was I was doing a water change, and I noticed as the tank was filling up, the right side of the tank was getting higher, than the left. I mean, the right side would reach its limit before the left side, and so not by a lot, I mean, under a half inch, and so stands with humidity and time, aquarium stands can settle. Floors can settle. Sometimes floors can get a little wave in them, and especially as the seasons change and you have changes in humidity, you're running your heater, you're not. Wood can change, and so it's a little off. And so I just happened to stumble across a video on someone using shims. So I went ahead and I tapped some shims under the right side of the tank, and it lifted up just enough so that now when I fill it, it's nice and straight across. You probably know this already, but when you have something held together by silicone and adhesives, if you're applying indirect pressure, if you're applying pressure that is not even all the way around, what's going to happen is that thing is going to torque. It's going to torque a little bit, and that torque is going to stretch the adhesive. It's going to stretch the silicone, and what's going to happen is you're going to have the beginnings of a failure that might be a small leak or something catastrophic like a tank actually coming apart. It's probably very rare for tanks to come apart. It's probably more common just for a seam, for one of the edges to fail, and if you have a leak that's high up, you'll have some water on the floor, but your fish will survive. But if you have a leak that's down low, like I think Marineland tanks for a while, I know Adam C. picked up, I think, a 300-gallon, and I think it was Marineland. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a seal at the bottom, right in the bottom center, fail, where the water was like spurting out away from the tank, and the water level is going to go down to the bottom. Fortunately, he caught it. He wasn't like at work or something, and he caught it because that tank drained down to the gravel, and so in his case down to the sand. So depending where the leak is, you can it can be very, very catastrophic. Now on that video, some of the comments I got were very positive, but one of them made sense. And I think if I was to do it over again, here's what I would do. I would put those shims in at the same time that I'm doing a water change. And by that, what I mean is I would go ahead and reduce the water level down to about 20%, maybe even a little lower, and then tap in the shims. I got away with it because of the way my stand is constructed. You could hammer in something without necessarily collapsing the stand. And also because it was 60 gallons, it wasn't necessarily incredibly heavy. But if you're going to do something like that with a 150 or larger or 100, definitely drain the tank down. I would suggest drain the tank down and then tap in your shims, and tap a little, check with your level, tap a little, check with your level, and you'll go ahead and get it right, and put enough shims in there so that you have a nice stable foundation. You know what I mean? Don't just put one shim where it can teeter on you. 2 or 3 shim, not that you would, but anyway. So that what inspired that video was not just the water change, but also I did a survey on Facebook, and what that survey was a I'll show you here. This was a survey where I talked about the biggest fears. What are the biggest fears that people have in keeping fish? Now, if I would have had to guess what people were going to say, coffee break. If I had to guess what people were going to say, I would think disease. Disease that wipes out your tank. That would be something that I would think. But the number one by far was a catastrophic event with the tank, where the tank actually either like the tank fails, and by fail we mean a leak that floods the room. Possibly the glass cracking or breaking, something like that. That was the number one fear was breakage and water damage, interestingly enough. And you can see here on the survey, if you can make it out, 100, and this was a few days ago. I think there's been more votes since then. I mean, the survey is just continuing to be active over at the Ben.o.cichlid Facebook group page. But a leak or tank bursting and flooding house, that 144 votes compared to disease killing off all my fish, 33 votes. That's a huge gap. And so you can see that was the biggest fear. And so it was a combination of that survey and doing that water change and seeing my level that got me inspired on that, and to put out that leveling video. And that leveling video is also going to be segueing into my next video, which I'm going to tie into the topic, one of the topics for today's talk, which is today's live stream, which is clickbait. And this is going to be the thumbnail for the next video. And it looks like somebody shot the 100 gallon. I don't want any of you to think that it broke or it got shot. It did not get shot, but it is the clickbait, because it ties into that number one fear of the number one fear of the fish keepers based on the survey. And I want to talk to you a little bit about clickbait. I mean, there's a lot of talk about like what exactly is clickbait, and I think clickbait really has to do with when you get into the area of dishonesty. That for me is clickbait, because look, every thumbnail that a YouTuber puts together is put together to get clicks. That's why they do it. They try and capture your attention and get you to stop what you're doing and click on that particular video. So to some degree, every thumbnail has an element of clickbait in it. But I use that term very loosely. The clickbait that I think of when I think of clickbait, I think of I ate my fish. I ate a can of fish food, something like that. And then you go into the video and it never really happened. It just, and sometimes it's kind of silly and tongue in cheek and just kind of goofy, and you kind of forgive them. But sometimes you go in and you go, oh, this is complete BS. You unsubscribe, you leave, you never come back. And so clickbait for a YouTuber that is unethical or goes over the line is actually very dangerous, and because it will cost you subscribers. But so there is a difference. Have you folks seen clickbait out there? I mean, tell me this. I'd be very curious to hear this from you. What's been the biggest clickbait you've ever come across, where you clicked on it and it had nothing to do with the thumbnail, the subject, or the picture that was depicted? What's the biggest clickbait you've ever come across that when you finished watching the video or halfway into the video, you said this is bogus, and you checked out? I'd be kind of curious to hear what you've come across. But this one here is based on the survey, The Biggest Nightmare of Fish Keepers, and it's going to talk about things that can be done to prevent a tank failure. Some of the steps you can take. Some of the things I'm going to cover, I'm going to refer back to the leveling video, the not level, not good video. And I'm also going to be giving some other tips. For example, with larger tanks, using something like this. This is a rock from Universal Rocks, and if you had a real rock this size, it would be extremely heavy. And if it banged across, if it banged the side of a glass tank, there's a chance you could actually crack that tank. If you dropped it by mistake too hard and hit the bottom of your tank, and that would certainly be a devastating place for a crack, right? If it dropped it too hard, you could break the bottom of your tank, possibly. I'm not saying you would. Perhaps there'd be some buffering with the gravel and substrate, okay? But using artificial rocks like these, have no weight at all, and if you want large rocks, I think this is a good idea. Everything in the tank behind me is artificial rock. I think it looks good as it ages and it starts to get a little algae and a little this, a little bit of aging. It looks better and better over time. Right when you first put them in, you can tell they're artificial, but as time goes on, they start to look more and more natural. And so I think I think that the using a light rock now I do have real rocks in the 100 and I do have real rocks in the 60, and I am very, very careful with them. I move pretty slow with them, and I make sure that I really have them well under control before I do any work on the tanks. Now with the 60 being glass, one of those large those pink and white dragon stones, somebody called them cake or ham stones. One of those stones, the bigger ones, that could shatter the side of that tank or the bottom very, very easily. The ones in the 100, the zebra rock, the black and white striped stones, those you'd have to hit an acrylic tank very hard to create a break, because acrylic just reacts differently. Now, another thing that you can do to safeguard against cracks and things like that is consider installing some of this under your substrate. This is fluorescent light diffuser. You can buy it in any hardware store. You've seen me talk about it before. I use it as a tank divider, and you put this underneath your substrate. And then what it does is when the rocks are placed down, there's a little bit of a buffer. And if they were to be dropped, it would spread out the impact somewhat. So, and it's completely hidden. It's totally under your substrate. So this isn't a bad idea. So at any rate, spoiler alert, my 3 tips are probably going to be using light rocks, using diffusers, and of course, making sure your tank is level. Those will be some of the tips that I'll be going over in the upcoming nightmare video. And I also have another video coming up talking about clickbait. I know that PetSmart has been notorious. People have gotten on to folks who use PetSmart a lot in their videos. But I visited two PetSmarts, and I'm right in the middle of 2 very large PetSmarts. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to be over in that area anyway. I've got to do some errands and both. I'm going to go ahead and stop and get some footage. And I'm going to get to know some of the staff. I'm going to look at their tanks. I'm going to ask them about their filtration. And man, oh man, let me tell you something. PetSmarts are not the same. And you're going to see in my video, these 2 PetSmarts with regards to overall quality and fish quality and filtration could not have been more different. And you will see that when I release this video. And some people will look at it and go, "Oh, PetSmart, here we go, clickbait." Anyway, I hope you like that video when it comes out. I tried to be fair. I tried to be kind. I tried to be impartial, and I wasn't there to ambush anybody. That's not how I roll. I was there to get into just find out honestly what's going on in each store. And one of these stores, I would not hesitate to pick up a fish, and I'd quarantine, put them in quarantine, of course. The other store, I would never buy a fish there, and you'll see in the video why. And it's at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and get into my favorite part of these live streams. And I thank all of you who have been coming in and jumping on. Let me see here. I have a way of actually popping out the chat, which is kind of fun. Let's see if I can do it here. There we go. Okay, let's see here what's been going on with you guys and gals. All right. It looks like for yo, very thick plastic non-absorbent foam or strips of heavy-duty rubber, 1/8, I guess 1/8 of an inch or smaller, have worked great for me in my house that was built in the 50s, which constantly shifts in Houston. There you go. There you go. I mean, we all learn from each other. That's a good tip. And if it's working for you, and again, one thing I say over and over again is if you have something that's working, don't mess with it. You know, don't mess with it. Why mess with it if it's working, right? So, all right, let's see here. Now let's get into some of the questions from last week, and then I'll get back to some of your comments here. But first, let me do one adjustment. And okay. So this is really my favorite part, is picking up the things that you folks have said. And by the way, I want to thank John Q. Dirt Ramper. I think I missed you last week on thanking you for that super chat. Super chats, of course, for those of you who are not familiar, is a way that you can actually throw a little money at the pole dancer and actually support the channel. And so thank you for that. And John Q. Dirt Ramper, if you're here. And he asked a question when he did his super chat. Got my first tank last summer, 75-gallon, all Lake Malawi and a pleco. Lost 2 fish to aggression, but I love fish keeping, and you've been a huge help to me. All right. Well, thank you so much, John. And, definitely as we go along in the hobby, this is an unfortunate reality for cichlid keepers. We do lose fish. We either lose them to disease, we lose them to aggression, and things of this nature. Unfortunately, there seems to be a fish casualty list that goes along with the learning curve in keeping African cichlids. And so, at any rate, I hope that the dying is over, at least for a while for you, and I hope that it gets better and better for you, John. So James Rutherford, how big did them eye biters get? I think they can get over 15 inches. I think they can get fairly large. Of course, they're very thin. I mean, they're a thin fish, kind of like, the size of a hefty angelfish. Or maybe not quite, maybe as thick as a discus, but they do get long, and they can put on some size. I would say 15 inches or more. And there's a great resource that I suggest to people. It's called Cichlid Forum, cichlid-forum.com, and that's a place where you can actually get a lot of information on cichlids, and a great resource. All right. And Jamie St. Amand, I actually put a video up yesterday since my nephew was over for Christmas vacation of him at my fish tank checking everything out. He's so cute. I just had to, Jamie, I went to your YouTube channel. I did watch that video. Very, very adorable, very cute. And I think we might have a future fish keeper there. So keep it up. Mark's Fish, you should make a trip to Ohio Fish Rescue, Ben. Awesome place, great people. Mark, I would love to do that. I would love to go to the Ohio Fish and Rescue. And that's, Ohio Fish and Rescue is like it's like a marine park, except for fish keepers. It's like the real, to me it's about as real as it gets is Ohio. I mean, those guys, the monsters that they have there, and talk about being all in, I mean, they're in a whole different league over at Ohio Fish Rescue. Denny's Aquatics, one of my moderators. Moderately stocked is the way to go these days. And so it's interesting to me, Denny, that you say these days, and I think you're chiming in around the time I was talking about how things in the cichlid community and probably the fish community in general, they come through like in trends. They come in like fashion, and all of a sudden it's all predators, and then it's all heavily stocked, and then it's lightly stocked, and then. But if you look at some of the like this tank behind me, people are considering this one a lightly stocked tank. You look at the tanks that Evan is keeping, and that Adam C, IFG and Adam C are keeping these days, very lightly stocked. Where way back when I would have considered some of Evan's tanks, I'd say in par with this one, maybe a little more. But when you get into heavy stocking to solve an aggression problem, you might be putting fish together that shouldn't be together. And instead of having the right fish in the tank, you're trying to solve it with a lot of fish. I get it because you want to have those different varieties. I understand. At the same time, with that overstocking, with that heavy stocking, you're going to have tremendous filtration demands and maintenance demands. More time, more maintenance, more cleaning, things of that nature. So, it's a balancing act. But, to each his own. Some of you have had very heavily stocked tanks for many years, and they've been running very, very well. Carry on, right? I mean, there's some of you out there that have all the lakes, all the lakes mixed together, and you have Mabuna, you have haps, you have peacocks, you have them all together. Hey, and if it's working for you, I'm not going to be the fish police. And JC's African Cichlids, can you post a video of how your sump setup is working? JC, if you go to my channel, JC, and go into the playlists, there's a playlist. I have two playlists that mention sump in the title, and you'll be able to get a tremendous amount of information there. And I might just do an update, and if I do, I'll do it with you in mind of how it's running now, because I do have that automatic top off system that I installed, and that's working beautifully. And so maybe I will do an update on it. Mark's Fish, another one from Mark's Fish. So you're saying that Lava Rock versus Biohome Ultimate, there's not going to be a difference. Now, I'm not sure if that question was for me or if that was in the discussions that were going on under the video. So, Lava Rock, Joey, the king of DIY. I mean, he posted a video one time about his favorite, inexpensive media, and that was Lava Rock. It does have a tremendous amount of surface area, and it's good stuff. Is it better than Biohome? I don't know. I mean, my over time, my most stable tank has been my 60-gallon. It has gone through the least amount of trauma with regards to fish, with regards to water parameters, and that has a lot of Biohome in it. So I would say if I wanted to get something closer to Biohome, you know what I would get? And you wanted to have an inexpensive alternative, consider getting garden pumice. Garden pumice is a lot like Seachem Matrix, and I believe Seachem Matrix is essentially pumice, which is a lighter, more porous form of lava rock. It's very, very light, and it works. I have pumice in my Fluval FX6. It's doing a great job, and it has a tremendous amount of surface area. So if you want to go on the high end, you want to go high quality, go Seachem Matrix, or get, try pumice instead. It seems to work fine. And let's see here. Duke City Aquariums, buy sponge filters and save $1 million. $1 million. Now, Duke City Aquariums, I've told you 1 billion times not to exaggerate. Now, if you go to Swiss Tropicals and you start to talk to the doctor that owns Swiss Tropicals, you will discover that there's a lot of research that seems to indicate that you could run matin sponges, just pure sponges, all the way through your system, and that's it. And simply rinse in tank water and replace, rinse in tank water and replace, every few months. And yes, that would be, and you could probably make a case for just using the kind of pond sponges you buy on eBay. You go on eBay, do a search for, egg crate pond filter sponges. You get them in big sheets and you cut them to shape your filter. I've been running some of these in some of my filters for years, and you just rinse and put them back in. And I don't think Duke City I've saved $1 million, but I've definitely saved some money. How about $1 billion? Biologicals, let me see. Chevy fish, biologicals and beneficial bacteria only grow to the numbers of what their food source is. Chevy fish, you're right on the money. Okay, look, you have 2 canister filters and you have 10 fish that you're feeding a heaping teaspoon of food every day. You're going to have enough biological bacteria that can be fed by those fish getting that much food a day. If you then add 2 more canister filters, thinking because you want to add more biological, and thinking that you're, by adding 2 more canister filters, you're going to get more bio, and you still have that number of fish, and you're still feeding them 1 heaping teaspoon a day, no, it's not going to happen. When you service one of the canisters, you're going to kill off some of the bacteria in that canister, and so there's a chance that the new canisters will start to populate more. You will get some bacteria growing in them, but remember, bacteria has to eat, and it'll only thrive and eat, up to the degree that it has food. So that's a very good point. If you add 10 canisters, you're not going to get twice the biological of 5 canisters. It'll spread out more, and when you service one of the canisters, you'll shock the system less because you always kill off beneficial bacteria when you rinse your sponges and things. So and I guess that would be a good case for having multiple filters, because there's less shock to the beneficial bacteria when you service one of them, if you're rotating your servicing, which I suggest you do. And so that's a good point. I think you're right on the money there. And Francie Arroyo, filtration. I found adding that sponge filter has really helped nitrates to come down. If you can hide it, I think it's a great alternative. Francie, I think that sponges, sponge filters, with the bubbler, those are great. I think they're great. I think they definitely have a place in the hobby. I don't like the way they look necessarily, but when you see how many professional breeders and are using large sponge filters, that's their go-to for cost and for bacteria development, things of that nature. I think sponges are awesome. I do want to put a small sponge in the sump in the tank behind me, so that it's it has biological and can go right into an emergency tank or a quarantine tank when needed. Let's see here. That one guy. The name of this YouTuber is That One Guy 12986. The hose on the Aqueon is thinner and kinks really easy. Python worth the extra money. That One Guy 12986. I agree with you 100%. Not only is the Aqueon hose smaller, but over time it gets really hard and stiff. I have to run very hot water through the hose, right? I put the end of it in the tub, and then I run really hot water through it to soften it up so I can put it away so that it rolls up. Otherwise, it's really stiff. It's very awkward to roll up. It's just a problem. So Whereas with the Python system, you don't get that problem. The Python is it's like a better rubber, a better, it's like a better, it's just a better quality material, and it just rolls up nicer, and it goes, like, if you're like me and you have different size siphons, using different size tubes. I have one that's very long for working on the bigger tanks. Then for the 60 and the 30, I have a short one. And so if you're swapping out from time to time, getting the Aqueon on there is really, really hard, especially if you're trying to get it onto a Python tube. So I have to heat the end of it under very hot water, and then slowly work it onto it. And then that's how I have to do as a workaround. So yes, I agree with you. That one guy 12986 and Mario, is it pronounced Lee? Mario LE. Hi Ben, can you name your top 3 peacock types with yellow color on its body? Oh boy. Okay. Hey, you know what? I'm going to turn to you folks out there in, the folks that are watching right now. Why don't you folks mention below what was your favorite? Let's help him out. Let's help him out. Mention what's your favorite fish with yellow in the body. For me, I'd have to, of course, your yellow sunshine. I love that one, and I also love the flavescent. The flavescent has yellow and a little bit of blue, a little bit of green in the body. I love those. Those are really good. And so, all right. The Jonathan Knowles. And let's see here. If we're having any difficulty with the live stream, just let me know. I noticed a little flicker on the screen. I'm not sure if that's something serious or not. Just let me know in the comments, and I'll try and do something about it. Maybe refresh the feed or something. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. I saw a funny comment. That's why I'm laughing. Okay, so Jonathan Knowles, I am having trouble getting a new eye biter to eat. He is in a quarantine tank with 4 other new fish at the moment. Do you have any suggestions on what I might be able to do to entice him to eat? First of all, don't worry about it too much. As they get settled in, eventually they will eat. Eventually they'll get hungry enough. I did have the exact same situation with an eye biter that I bought. The eye biter in the tank behind me here. And that eye biter is finally responded to the cobalt. I believe it's Omega 1 frozen. Now the reason why those frozen cubes I think were so actually worked so well was because they contain garlic. I think that's the secret ingredient, garlic. So if you can pick up some Focus. I think it's put out by, I think CCAM makes it, Focus. There are some garlic products out there, Garlic Guard and Focus, I think are 2 of them. You can mix a little garlic in your food and add that and see if he goes for it. Eventually, I mean, he's going to eat. I mean, he's going to get really hungry and eat, but you don't want him to get, a sunken belly. Now, if it goes a long while and you got a sunken belly going on, you may have to shift into perhaps API General Cure, or maybe, if you're on 2, something, you may have a parasite issue. If you start to notice that the belly is really sinking. I have noticed that eye biters sometimes can have a little, because they're so thin, they can have a little bit of, they don't have as full a belly as other fish. They kind of tuck their fins as part of being, I think, their stealth mode, but definitely if that belly starts to look like it's sinking, hit that tank with all the fish. Don't take any fish out of it. And I wouldn't suggest you take any fish out of it until you resolve what's going on with that eye biter, because chances are whatever's going on with that eye biter is also going on with the other fish in that tank. So don't end quarantine until you have that eye biter situation resolved. Uh, Mike Addison, thoughts on glass or acrylic? Mike, I like both of them for different reasons. If I had to, build a tank right now, if someone contacted me and said, "Hey, let's do a project together. Let's put together that 10-foot long Malawi tank you've been dreaming about," I would go acrylic. I would go acrylic for a couple of reasons. One is the weight. The weight of a large acrylic tank is significantly less than the weight of a very large glass tank. The other reason is the ability to see the fish. Acrylic is actually considerably more see-through, more less opaque, clear than glass, believe it or not. So you'll get more of a floating in air type of a situation with a large acrylic tank. The downside of an acrylic tank, yes, they can scratch. They are probably more susceptible to being scratched. You just have to be more careful. For example, you wipe them down with a specific kind of sponge. You never let that sponge touch the substrate, because if it pulls up a piece of substrate, it will be like sandpaper and it'll score and gouge the inside. You have a rag, a very soft rag, and a very specific acrylic type of cleaning solution that you use on the outside, and you don't ever just pick up a random rag and wipe it. All it takes is one little teeny piece of pebble in there, and you've scratched your acrylic tank. So you have to take certain precautions. But acrylic, when you consider weight and the ability to view the fish clearly, it is a standalone option. There's nothing really that compares to it. So now the complaint people have about acrylic usually is the cost. And the cost of it, I get it. That is a consideration. You can pick up some real good deals. For me, I picked up both of my acrylic tanks on Craigslist. And in both cases, the first question I asked when I called about the tank is, are there any large scratches? A little teeny scratch here and there, I don't care. In both cases, the tanks were in very, very good shape. And in the case of the one behind me, I had it professionally buffed out because it was previously a salt tank and it had a lot of salt creep and just some mineral buildup and salt buildup on it. And I had somebody professionally buff it out, and that brought it back to a new luster. So Sharpies, models, and aquatics. Sharpies, models, and aquatics. Are you there? Let's see here. I've been told I need a canister from our 40 breeder. I can't see how it would do any better than I'm currently using. Sharpies, everybody has an opinion, everybody has and again, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing working? And if it's working, then just, stick with it. I don't understand why, and especially when you look at some of the very successful large breeders out there and the filtration that they're using, I don't know why really anybody would make that suggestion. And I'll tell you one thing I've learned from being a YouTuber is that there's no scarcity of people with an idea about what you should be doing. And I certainly welcome suggestions. My motto: we all learn from each other, right? And so but you can't just react to every suggestion. Ultimately, you have to trust your own your own observation. If the fish look good, the parameters are good, the fish are healthy, yeah, I wouldn't. And I've done that. I've followed the trend. I've jumped when somebody mentioned something, and in some cases I've made some huge mistakes, and wish I hadn't done it. Wish I had stuck with what was working. Rianne, R-I-A-A-N, Rianne, when you building your own tank, Ben? Rianne, I'd love to build my own tank, but I would need 10-foot long, inch thick sheets of glass. And I don't know. I don't know if I have the space or the the ability to do that, but I'd certainly love to build my own tank. I even thought about it at one point. Before I got this tank behind me, I thought about going out and picking up, going to the glass store, because I figured out the pieces, and I said, well, it's going to be a lot less expensive. And then, I even bought some of those clamping vices that you would use, to really push the glass together so that the adhesives really, really set correctly. And, but someday, if I get maybe when we move, if I have a large workspace that I can use. All right, let's see here. Night Rider, KNYGHT, Night Rider. Ohio Fish Rescue is like every spouse's nightmare realized. Can you imagine your spouse goes on vacation and you have like this normal house with this like 60-gallon tank in it. Your wife goes to visit the folks in another part of the country and comes back and you have Ohio Fish Rescue. Oh my God. Our first beagle, we have beagles, and our first beagle was my wife went to go visit her grandmother up in Montana. And when she came back, it was like around Mother's Day. And so we presented her with the beagle. She didn't necessarily want a beagle, but congratulations, you're the owner of a beagle pup. Anyway, she did fall in love with the dog, and the story has a happy ending. Okay, so that only guy 12986 chimed in again with thoughts on the Sun 5000. I bought one on impulse on Black Friday, but haven't had a chance to hook it up yet. Well, you have to make up your own mind about that. Get it hooked up, get it running, see what you think. One person called it the fluval killer. I'm not sure about that. I've heard some great reviews on it. I've also heard some reviews that were talking about how they were not satisfied and couldn't really get an answer from the seller. If you can pick it up from, if you folks that haven't bought one yet and are thinking about it, Chewy's is a very big distributor, and they're not a sponsor of my channel or anything, but Chewy's is now selling Sun. And I think if you can buy the Sun from somebody that has a large online presence, they will back up the product, and you'll probably be able to get more backup that way. So I would suggest looking into something like that. I wouldn't mind one. I contacted a couple of folks, some of the Chinese importers, and to see what they had to say about it. Anyway, at some point, maybe I'll get one just to check it out. But hook it up, and after you've hooked it up and had it run for a while, come back to the live stream and tell us what your thoughts are. I heard it moves a lot of water. I heard you can dial in the gallons, and it has a very similar setup to a fluval in that it has the clamp, the screw down clamps at the top. And I love the fact that you can control the gallons per hour with a digital readout. I think that's good. Sharpies, models, and aquatics. I look at water changes as flushing the toilet for my fish. That's one way to look at it, certainly. I think of it as, having a bunch of people in a closet, and you open the door and let the air, get some clean air in there. And I guess that analogy works. And we had somebody named, let's see here, Rodney Dunham. Rodney Dunham. If you're on the chat, Rodney, I hope you are. 120 gallon with moderate bioload, 2 Sun 404Bs. Recently removed all biomedia in favor of sponges only. Staggered the change 1 month or so. I think, I think the key word that you said there, first of all, Sponges, again, going back to my prior comment, if you talk to the doctor that owns Swiss Tropicals and other fish keepers out there, they will tell you that you can go exclusive sponges, and you'll have plenty of surface area, and they'll do the job. And yes, like Duke City Aquarium, you will save millions of dollars. And one thing you said in your comment there, Rodney, that I really liked is you staggered it. And this is something that, I hear people talk about how they're swapping out their substrate, or they're going to be switching from one media to another. And you really have to do it in parts, only because you're going to go ahead and really kind of kill off a lot of bio when you do that. One suggestion is, if you're going to put a new media, why don't you get a mesh bag and put the new media in the mesh bag? It's not going to be pretty, but put the media in the mesh bag and just start it to kind of get seeded a little bit. Remember, you're only going to have as much media or as much bio as your tank can feed. However, if that media is in the aquarium in the mesh bag, and then you do a maintenance on the canister or the hang-on back using the old media, what that'll do is it'll allow bio to start to populate that media that's in the mesh bag. And because you're killing off a little bit in the filter. So again, do things on a gradient, one step at a time. Reduce the shock factor on your fish. If you're going to be changing substrate, I would suggest starting to move substrate over and removing it, maybe a few large cupfuls at a time, and then you may not want to mix it with the other substrate. That can get messy real quick, so you may have to use some kind of a divider or something and do things, do it in phases. And let's see here, we had a comment under last week's live stream that said, this was from Jay Johnson. Ben, great work on the channel. I'm upgrading to a sump, so I have to drill my tank. Wish me luck. Jay, if you're on the stream, or if you come back and watch the stream later, can you update us on how that drilling of your tank went? And just be sure that's not a tempered glass tank, because a tempered glass tank will shatter. So be sure to check with the manufacturer. But, I see people on YouTube drilling their tanks, and there's a specific way of doing it, using, water and a certain kind of a drill. And that's beyond that's beyond my comfort level at this stage. So let's take a look at some of the comments that are going on now, and let's see here. I'm going to look at the comments on a second laptop that I'm using here, and so bear with me. And did I miss some super chats? I think I might have missed a super chat or two. I want to thank those of you who are super chatting, and I apologize for missing them. Let's see here. Aqua balls. We're talking about biggest fears, aqua balls, and I can't say aqua balls without laughing. But the big one, he's talking about, I guess, an earthquake in California. California earthquake. I am afraid of my tanks going down and making more disasters, but it won't hurt anyone in the house. They are in the garage. Yeah. I mean, I thought about strapping, putting some anchors in the wall and strapping the back of the stands to give them a little bit of earthquake protection. An earthquake that's so large that it would knock over a tank, I could see it maybe shifting the tank a little, maybe even shifting the tank on the stand a little bit. But to actually have it tip over, I think we'd have bigger problems. I think we'd have perhaps collapsed houses. Anyway, that would be a bad thing. Knock on wood, we haven't had that problem. Let's see here. KG, did the Tesla guy throw a stainless steel ball at your? Kevin has a video. At KG Cichlids, not to be confused with KG Tropicals, has a video of him shattering a tank. And anyway, don't allow him to hold a hammer if he comes over to your house. Let me see. Tiffany White, not a fan of clickbait. Some are exaggerations, and some are just lies. I agree. It's when they cross over into BS, into lies, that's where the clickbait goes off for me. Aqua Balls, I got a bag of weed in the mail, but it was a Zola fern. Did you smoke it? I hope not. Sharpies, Models, and Aquatics. The biggest clickbait I saw was a newspaper headline in the 80s. English comedian Freddie Starr ate my hamster. It's used everywhere. It's used everywhere. You see it everywhere. I think men are very susceptible to clickbait. She revealed it all. She shows everything. It's like, oh, really? Okay. I know I'm supposed to be working, but oh, good. So yeah, we're clickbait. We're like a fish following shiny lures. All right. So Arnold de Gans, good evening from the Netherlands. Hello, my friend. I hope you're still on the live stream. Big thank you for all the great information you have given me. My pleasure, my friend. And someday I hope to visit your beautiful country. So let's see here. Boy, a lot of great people on this thing here. Let's see here. Sharpies, Models, and Aquatics. There's a difference between trying to attract people to your video with a creative title and either lying or dramatizing something minor into something huge. I hear you. I agree. George, over in Glasgow, Scotland, another place I hope to visit someday. Gorgeous, gorgeous. If the pictures are telling me the truth. Chevy Fish, let me see. Clinton, Aqua Balls, Candi. All right, here we go. Let's see. We have a conversation going on about the weather, okay? Craig, it looks like Bales, just wondering if you would put a Frontosa in a 150. Yes, I would. I'd put a Frontosa in a 150. I'd put 4 or 5 Frontosas in a 150. When they grow very, very slow, keep in mind, those fish can live 25, 30 years. So they will be okay in there for a while. Now, when they get ginormous, you will probably have to consider going into a 220, a 300, because they do get very, very large. But you have a lot of years between now and then. And so they grow slow, and but they do get very, very large over time. Let's see here. If you guys want to ask a question, type it in now, because I'm actually scanning through. Ginger says, Ginger Graves, my local PetSmart is really good. So is my local Petco. Very helpful and friendly staff in both stores. I do know more about fish than they do. I've gotten fish from my PetSmart. Got a QT to be safe. Yeah, it's always good to quarantine. And I will say that the PetSmart in Pasadena, that person was very, very friendly. You're going to see she actually had a big sign right when you walk into the fish area with some fish keeping tips and information, which I thought was very, very nice. The people in the other store, what is called PetSmart Monrovia, They were very put off by my asking questions about the filtration and by my pointing out something that was going on in one of the tanks. They were very, very put off by it. And I really felt like I was interrupting the conversation between two staff members, between two employees. And at any rate, you'll see in the video. And I'm not I'm not somebody who wants to bash them. I like PetSmart. I've had to go there sometimes when I needed something in a hurry, and they come through not just for my fish, but for my other pets like my dogs. And but they are not the same. They are not the same, both in fish stock, fish quality, and filtration. How they filter. I was shocked at the differences between how these two stores were filtering. Let's see here. Sharpie models, same thing with pets in the UK. Let me see, in my home in the UK, he has a great local store with great staff, but the other two nearby are awful, dingy places with uninterested and unknowledgeable staff. I have a fish store near me in Monrovia Tropical, that I've asked Nolan from Nolan's Aquariums. I've asked him to buy the store because you go in there and every tank is disgusting. I wish Nolan would buy that store and make it a local fish store, and I could go hang out there, and maybe even go into a partnership with him. Nolan, if you're listening. Clinton said, any ideas what happened to the KG Tropicals live stream? Was going to watch the replay, but video. Hey, Candi, do you know about that? Clinton is asking about the KG Tropicals replay. Do you know what happened to that replay? KG Cichlids. Unfortunately, most animal experts don't work at Petco or PetSmart. They work in animal hospitals and conservation. I think you're right, Kevin. I think you're right. I once had a very bad situation happen from some bad advice I got with an iguana that I purchased. And when I took it to the vet said that in Europe, in some places in Europe, you have to be you have to have a certain license to sell pets. But in the United States, anybody can hang up a sign and be a pet seller. And so, unfortunately, the bad advice I got resulted in the death of a very nice iguana. And GP Guvinder, hey, Guvinder. Parmar, eye biters can get 12 to 14 inches easy, depending on how well you take care of. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Thinking right in that range. And good to see you on the chat. Aqua Balls is giving up on German blue rams. I had some problems myself with rams. I used to keep rams with the discus, and they're supposed to be good tank mates for discus. And I never had any ram that really lasted any length of time. They always seem to drop dead. I think they're very, very sensitive to temperature, and they have to be kept. If I remember correctly, I think they have to be kept fairly warm. Don't quote me. Do some research on it, but they have to be kept very warm. Drop, they just immediately react, and it might have been that for that at the bottom of the chat. I had a live show this past to go towards the end of the week. Nittany Fins, the way off, give them a few squeezes in a bucket of tank water, and have that problem. That's because the good thing about them. They're stopping filter. You don't have, you can fill jobs. So some straight. If you have send substrate enough at the very bottom, anaerobic a very good